This narrow strip of water is worth more than entire countries. Every year, trillions of dollars squeeze through just 3 kilometers. It carries a quarter of everything the world ships by sea. Oil for China, cars from Japan, everything from everywhere. Yet on a map, it barely looks like anything at all. So why does this one strait matter more than nations? Why did empires fight for centuries to control it? And why did one tiny city become rich beyond imagination? The answer is written in the shape of the land. So, zoom in with me, all the way to Southeast Asia. 90% of world trade moves by sea. Almost everything you own rode a ship. Your phone, your coffee beans, your sneakers, your car, all crossed an ocean first. Ships are the bloodstream of the global economy. Invisible highways drawn across blue water. No other vehicle comes close for scale. Trains and planes carry crumbs by comparison, and like blood vessels, some are wide, others narrow to a single fragile artery. Now look at a map of Asia. Find India, then slide your finger east. Find the Malay Peninsula and the island of Sumatra. Between them, the map suddenly pinches. That pinch is the Strait of Malacca, roughly 900 kilometers of funnel. It links the Indian Ocean to the Pacific, the Andaman Sea to the South China Sea, and at its southeast end, near Singapore, it narrows down to less than 3 kilometers wide. 3 kilometers. You could swim across a global trade superhighway in an hour. Every day, around 250 ships pass through, tankers, container giants, bulk carriers. That is one ship every 6 minutes, day and night, in both directions. Added up over a year, about a quarter of all seaborne trade on Earth. In dollar terms, estimates run past 3 trillion annually. Trillion with a T. Now compare that to countries. Indonesia's entire economy is worth maybe $1 trillion and change. India counts 1.5 billion people. Its whole economy produces under 4 trillion yearly. So this ribbon of water moves goods worth more than most nations produce at all. That is the strange claim of this video. And it is not really an exaggeration. The question is why? Why this strait and not the thousands of others? Oceans hold hundreds of straits. Most sit between places nobody needs to connect. The answer starts with who lives where. Asia holds 60% of humanity. On one side sit the factories. China, Japan, and South Korea make the world's stuff. On the other side sit customers and fuel. Europe, India, and Middle Eastern oil. Connect them by sea and the geometry is obvious. The straight line runs through Malacca. Look at a tanker leaving the Persian Gulf. Its destination might be Shanghai. It crosses the open Indian Ocean, rounding no continent. It just slips between Malaysia and Sumatra. Take away that shortcut and the detour hurts. Ships would swing far south around Indonesia. The Lombok Strait works, but adds days. The Sunda Strait is shallower and riskier. Some giants already route through Lombok. The deepest tankers cannot squeeze through Malacca. Going around Australia adds over a week. Fuel, wages, and time all cost money. A big ship burns tens of thousands in fuel daily. Every extra day is expensive. Multiply that by tens of thousands of voyages. The detour would cost billions each year, so ships queue up for the narrow way, even though it is not easy water. Parts of the strait are only about 25 meters deep. Fully loaded giants barely fit. There is even a term for the limit. Sailors call the biggest loud ships Malacca. Sandbanks shift, currents swirl, and traffic jams form. Captains call it stressful water to sail, yet they keep coming because the math never changes. The shortest path beats the comfortable path. Here is the first half of the answer. Geography made this the cheapest corridor on Earth, but geography alone does not create wealth. People had to notice, and they did. Rewind 600 years. Sailing ships crossed this region on the monsoon winds. Summer winds blew one way, winter winds reversed. Merchants timed their voyages to the seasons, and they needed a place to wait. A sheltered port between the two monsoon legs. Around the year 1400, a prince founded one. The port of Malacca on the strait's coast. Its harbor was calm, its position perfect. Ships from India and China met in between. Within decades, it became one of Earth's richest ports. Tens of thousands lived and traded there. Spices, silk, porcelain, tin, and gold changed hands. Dozens of languages filled its markets. And whoever held Malacca held the toll booth. That lesson shaped 5 centuries of history. In 1511, the Portuguese seized it by force. They wanted the spice money for themselves. In 1641, the Dutch took it instead. Empires fought wars over this narrow water. Then the British arrived, wanting their own door. In 1819, Stamford Raffles picked an island. That island sat at the strait's southeastern door. Its name was Singapore, the Lion City. Raffles made one brilliant, radical decision. He declared Singapore a free port, no tariffs. While rivals charged ships to dock, Singapore charged nothing. So the ships came to him. Trade exploded and the settlement mushroomed. Within a generation, it outgrew far older ports. The location did half the work. The free port did the rest. That free port idea still powers the place today. Openness became the entire business model. Migrants poured in from everywhere to build it. Malays, Chinese, Indians, and Europeans worked the docks. Fast forward to now. Singapore runs one of the world's 2 busiest ports. Roughly 1 in 5 shipping containers touches its docks. Fuel, finance, and insurance cluster around it. And the wealth is visible. Its income per person ranks among Earth's highest. Higher than America, higher than most of Europe. A city smaller than New York, outproducing nations. It has almost no resources of its own. No oil, little farmland, barely enough water. What it has is position. Position plus the discipline to never block the flow. That is the second half of the answer. Location gave the opportunity, policy cashed it in. Now, the stakes get bigger than money. Look at the strait through Beijing's eyes. Roughly 80% of China's imported oil passes through. So does much of its export trade. Japan and South Korea are even more exposed. Their economies run on tankers through Malacca. One Chinese leader famously called this the Malacca dilemma, a lifeline his country does not control. Because the strait is governed by others, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore share its shores. Any crisis, any blockade, any war could close it. Asian economies would feel it within weeks. Fuel prices would spike on headlines alone. Insurers would raise rates before a single shot. Would you live in a city built by a strait? Tell me in the comments below. Or if your country depends on one, say so. I read the geography stories you share. Back to the water because danger here is old. This strait invented a modern crime wave. In the early 2000s, pirates prowled these lanes. Attacks made headlines year after year. Small boats swarmed slow tankers in the dark. Crews were robbed, sometimes kidnapped for ransom. At its worst, roughly a third of world piracy happened here. Insurers briefly called it high risk. Then something unusual happened. Rival neighbors cooperated instead of blaming each other. Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, and Thailand launched joint patrols. Air and sea coordinated across borders. Attacks collapsed within a few years. Proof the neighbors know what the strait is worth. Today, patrol craft still sweep the lanes nightly. No one wants the old headlines to return. Still, depending on one narrow passage feels risky. So Asia keeps hunting for detours. China built pipelines through Myanmar to bypass it. Oil and gas now flow overland instead. Another pipeline dream runs through Pakistan. Rail lines stitch China to Europe by land. Thailand revives an old fantasy every decade. A canal across the Craibness. Dig 100 kilometers of canal. Save 2 days. Shipyards would rejoice. Singapore would sweat. But the price tag scares everyone off. Tens of billions, plus mountains of politics. And ships would still pay canal tolls. The savings shrink once you do the math. What about the melting Arctic opening northern seas? That shortcut only serves Europe and Asia. For the Gulf to East Asia run, nothing competes. Malacca stays the shortest line on the chart. Railways move containers fast, but in small numbers. One ship carries what 1,000 trains haul. That is the brutal economics of the sea. Water is nearly frictionless. Land never is. So containers keep stacking on ever larger hulls. The ships grow, but the strait stays the same. Moving goods by ocean costs pennies per kilogram. By rail, it costs multiples more by air fortunes. So even after centuries, the pattern holds. The cheap road still runs between Sumatra and Malaya. Now, imagine the nightmare scenario. The strait closes for a month. Ships reroute south around Indonesia immediately. Delivery times stretch across half the planet. Oil benchmarks jump within hours. Factories in East Asia start rationing fuel. Container rates soar. Shortages ripple outward. Store shelves thousands of kilometers away feel it. Nothing exploded anywhere else. The world just lost 3 kilometers of water. Markets would panic long before ships arrived. Fear itself moves faster than freight. That thought experiment reveals the real valuation. The strait is priced by what flows through, not by its fish, its seabed, or its views. By the heartbeat of trade permits, which is why economists value it in the trillions and why navies quietly watch its every mile. The United States sails through to keep it open. China builds ports abroad to reduce dependence. Singapore invests billions to stay indispensable. Deeper berths, automated cranes, vast new terminals. Malaysia expands its own ports on the strait. Everyone wants a slice of the flow, because the flow is the fortune. That has been true for 600 years. Malacca's sultans knew it in 1400. The Portuguese, Dutch, and British killed for it. Raffles understood it with a signature in 1819. Modern Singapore turned it into a science. The strait never changed shape in all that time. The same narrow pinch, the same 2 shores. What changed was how much the world ships, and every new container raised its worth. So when you hear a strait outvalues a country, this is why. Geography set the price. Trade paid it. The map, it turns out, is an economy. Coastlines quietly write the fortunes of nations. Mountains decide where cities can grow. Rivers decide where trade begins, and narrow water decides who gets rich. Not the widest sea, the most necessary one. And Malacca is not alone in this. The world runs on a handful of such hinges. Hormuz guards the oil of the Gulf. Suez stitches Europe to Asia. Bab el-Mandeb funnels the Red Sea. Panama bridges 2 entire oceans. If this changed how you see a map, comment. Which choke point should we explore next? Subscribe and tap the bell for more stories of how the world actually works. Because somewhere on your map, another strait is waiting, and it is quietly running the world.